Is Guild Wars 2 worth playing in 2018? The short answer to this question is yes. And if you want to know why, then stay tuned. Hey there guys, in this video I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why you should play Guild Wars 2 in 2018. Guild Wars 2 has been released in 2012 by a company called ArenaNet, the same gaming studio that made the original game. The game has had a couple of shifts in its business model. In 2013 there were no plans for a future expansion, and now in 2018 we already have 2 expansions down the line. Anyway, I'm going to split this video up in 5 segments, and each segment will last about 3 to 4 minutes. This way I'm able to keep it short and simple, but I'm still able to touch some extra details in the process. If you still have any questions during or after this video, don't forget to leave them in the comments. I'll try my best to answer your question the best way I possibly could. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Guild Wars 2 related content. And without further ado, let's dig right into it. One of the reasons you should try Guild Wars 2 in the first place is that it's a free-to-play game. The only thing you have to do is create an account using your email address on the official Guild Wars 2 website and download the game. You can play through the whole base game from level 1 to 80, which is the maximum level. The free-to-play version of the game gives you access to a big amount of maps, 5 different races, 8 playable professions, your own personal story and much more. And that all is completely free. But of course, there are some limitations to the free-to-play version of the game. For example, you can only have 2 characters in the free version of the game. If you have the full version of the game, you have, by default, 5 character slots at your disposal. Another important limitation is that you won't be able to use the map chat and whisper to other random players. You can still whisper to another person if that person has you on your friend list. Personally, I think this is a great feature, because this way gold sellers and all those other shady businesses don't get the chance to advertise their services. There are some other limitations to the free-to-play version of the game, but they are quite minor. Personally, I think if you want to have a good impression of the game, there's no need for any of these functions. A full list of limitations can be found in the description down below. And now you're probably watching this and wondering, the game is free to play, so it must be paid to win. I've seen this argument fly by quite a couple of times in the past, but it's completely false. The free-to-play version of the game is about the same as we had back in 2012 when the game first released. Usually people point at the gem store or to people that bought the expansion for the game. This has nothing to do with pay to win. The gem store is purely cosmetic and has some items that make gathering and leveling a bit more convenient, but it's no pay to win. People that bought the expansions get more abilities to move around, that is, gliders for Heart of Thorns and mounts for the Path of Fire expansion. If you want to lift any of those limitations on a free-to-play account, the only thing you have to do is get one of the expansions. Either of the expansions are just 20 to 30 bucks depending on your currency and the region you live in. I think it's a fair price for the amount of content you'll get, and if you compare it to other MMOs and other games. Alright, let's talk about the player base. The game is still very much alive 6 years after its original release. Looking at the amount of guilds, community events and the overall population on different maps, I think it's safe to say that the game has a quite active player base. Guild Wars 2 always had one of the most friendliest communities in the MMO genre. People are always willing to help each other out or join up for an event. I've heard that structured PvP can be a bit toxic at times, so take that into consideration if you want to go there. I can't really say much about the age of the average player, but most people I encounter are usually above the age of 18. Age doesn't matter in this game though. I've played with fathers, mothers and people attending high school, college and university. I personally find it really nice to have this much diversity in the community. Alright, let's talk about content. We started this video with the free-to-play aspect of the game and what you'll get for it. Now we're gonna go over the content that has been recently released and the upcoming content for the year 2018. In 2013-2014 there was this philosophy to release new content for Guild Wars 2 every 2 weeks. This was done through the Living World. a story accessible only for level 80 characters with a new story chapter each release. To unlock the new chapter, the only thing you had to do was simply log into the game. In the end, the developers decided to create a new expansion with new class specializations, new songs and more story. The first expansion released in 2015 and the latest expansion, Path of Fire, released in November of 2017. But what about the content in between the expansions? Well, the living world is still up and running. The frequency of the content is a bit longer than it used to be, but it's also way better than it used to be. New content used to release every 2 weeks, but now that has been increased to every 3 months. When they made this shift, the story became more engaging, the areas more immersive, and all new maps have achievements, currency and other rewards tied to it. While I'm making this video, the last content update was in November 2017, and the next content update should get dropped around the end of February 2018. Take this with a grain of salt, but the content after that should be released in May, August and November of this year. But like I said, I can't officially confirm this yet. Before we round up this segment of the video, I have to say that the latest Living World update requires the latest expansion, Path of Fire. Anyway, to round this content segment up, the free version of the game has the core content that we used to have in 2012 when the game first released. Buying any of these expansions gives you access to new maps, more story and new elite specializations for your current profession. The Living World releases come every 3 months if you have the latest expansion, which is at this point Path of Fire. Moving on to the endgame of Guild Wars 2. That's the stuff we're all working for, right? No? Oh, wait, that's also fine. Anyway, the endgame in Guild Wars 2 has also something to do with expansions. Let's go over the free-to-play version of the endgame content first. The first thing you can do are dungeons. These instances have a story tied to it and currency that can be earned and can be exchanged for armor. However, dungeons have changed quite a bit in terms of rewards, and this led to some people not doing them anymore. So keep in mind that if you want to do dungeons, it could take a while to get a group together. The second thing are Fractals of the Mists. Fractals of the Mists are mini dungeons that can be found in Lion's Arch. Fractals are very well populated and it should not take more than a few minutes to get a group together. You start out on Fractal level 1 and you work your way up to Fractal level 100. As you progress through these fractals, you'll eventually need something that's called Agony Resistance. Agony Resistance can be obtained in lower level fractals and you'll need it for higher level fractals. Agony Resistance can be applied to Ascended Weapons, Ascended Armor and Ascended Trinkets. As a free-to-play player, these might be a bit harder to obtain, but it should not be impossible to do so. If you're not into that, there are always world bosses and map events. These have their own loot and achievements tied to them and they spawn at a specific time. A list to these times can be found in the description. Players that did buy the expansion of course have access to all the things I just mentioned. But these players have also access to several different raids with their own specific gear, story and achievements tied to them. Raids are usually not about the damage you do, but more about the tactics and mechanics around each boss. So having the proper gear is not just a guarantee that you will actually kill the raid boss. Next to that, the players can also take part in the new episode of Living Story, which occurs every 3 months. But I've already talked about that. Players with the expansions also have more achievements to go for, they have more maps at their disposal, they have more meta events, they have more bosses, but they also have more skins at their disposal. So if you're interested in raiding, the way your character looks, and more story, then you might just want to pick up any of the expansions. Last but not least is the casual, hardcore player discussion. Guild Wars 2 was built on the philosophy that it was going to be a casual MMO. This means that your maximum level was going to be 80 and there was no new gear past Ascended gear. You could hop in anytime you like and not be miles behind compared to the rest of the player base. They kinda held on to that philosophy, but if they did, there would be no proper endgame. You are not at a disadvantage if you take a break from the game for a couple of months. It's really easy to catch up. However, if you are a more hardcore player, you can always go for raids. These can often be quite challenging and will take a while to get down. There's also the hunt for harder achievements and legendary weapons. Legendary weapons take a lot of time and dedication to craft. You won't be able to craft one in just a few weeks after you hit level 80. I've been playing the game since release and I only just finished 1 legendary, while other people's already have 3 or even more. I mean, that's just insane. Alright, that's all I have for now. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and share it with your guildies or friends. For more Guild Wars 2 content, you can subscribe to this channel. I try to upload as much as possible. And if you have any more questions, just leave them down in the comments. Thanks for watching and I really hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace!